Welcome to Devlog 23 for Reave, a dark fantasy VR game we're making here at Alta. A few weeks back, we ended the July playtest, which was extended to be a whopping 3-week-long playtest, so only just ended in the first week of August. Thank you to everyone who took part and played the game. I had a blast playing with you all and watching the streams of you all playing too. And as always, we appreciate all your feedback while playing and in the post-playtest form as well. And good news for all of you waiting to playtest again, the August playtest is not too far away, and we're opening the floodgates for Quest 2 players. That's right, anyone with a Quest 2 can now playtest Reave, along with Quest 3 and 3S players who have already had access. And as always, there's full crossplay between those and players on PC VR too. You don't have to sign up to some list or wait for access to play Reave when playtests are active. Just head over to discord.gg/Reave and follow the commands and links to get access. Okay, and now it's time to dive into the updates for this devlog, and let's kick things off with armor. For a long time now, we've had this very temporary looking armor in the game. A lot of it has been these textureless white pieces of armor that you see on players a lot. But all of that is about to change because now we've finally got something special to show. First up, let's take a look at some concept art Megan made of the 3 base armor sets that are coming to the game. And let's focus on the one all the way on the right here, which is the first of the starter sets for heavy armor types. And it's called the Fighter Armor. Now, for the first time, we have our first official full final piece of armor in the game. This is the full Fighter Armor set. You can see it laid out right here. This set includes 2 helmets to choose from, the chest piece, the gloves, the cuisse or trousers or leggings, and the boots. The full set is available in-game for players to buy from a merchant with gold, or you can find it in loot chests. Also, if you spec down the skill tree to become a fighter, this will also be part of your default loadout. Talking of, we hope you love it as much as we do. We're really looking forward to showing you even more armor in the game soon. You got a glimpse of that earlier in Megan's concept art, where we showed a few other armor sets alongside this one, all of which will be starting armor sets. And I've also got to give a huge shout out here to Zach, who has been doing an incredible job since joining the team, sculpting and texturing these armor pieces. The amount of detail he's brought to Reave's armor is on a whole new level. The goal right now is to focus on the 3 starter sets, one for light armor, one for medium, and one for heavy. And of course, the fighter set you're seeing here is that heavy starter baseline set. And from here, we'll just keep expanding, adding those other starter sets, and then focusing on even cooler, more interesting armor sets to expand those different categories. I hope you all enjoyed that deep dive into the first new armor set for Reave, but let's move on to another huge update for the game, environments. For a while now, the Fallen Bastion has looked pretty much the same. These fairly nondescript spaces you spawn in, that's because a lot of it was left over from much earlier in development. But the team has been working incredibly hard to rework and expand the Bastion with brand new environments, giving each area its own unique identity. And there are 3 brand new areas coming up, but let's start with the caves. Now, you might be thinking, wait, this doesn't look like caves, it's a green room. And yeah, that's another big change. Every time you enter the Fallen Bastion, you'll now spawn in these green spawn rooms, just like the green entrance you enter in the encampment to begin your raids. And the elevator is in here too, creating a connection between your descent and the surface above. In the caves, leaving one of the initial green spawn rooms will take you to some fascinating areas. For example, here's the Relic Study, a place where it looks like something was once housed or studied in this central chamber. Climb to the upper areas, cross a narrow wooden beam, and you can drop down into the depths. But be warned, that drop is dangerous if you're not careful, and what's waiting for you below is even deadlier. This isn't a recommended route for beginners, there are other paths too, like this door that leads you straight into the central cave chamber. And here we are, opening the passageway to the center of the cave area. And we can already see we have a friend over there. Hey Sean.
Hiya.
Welcome, welcome. Why don't you come join us down here?
Yep.
There we go. So Sean is our lead environment artist here at Alta, and actually in a previous devlog you were in, you mentioned you were working on caves, and well, here we are in the caves. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about the goals of adding caves to Reave?
Yeah, so at this point in development, we're really looking to add some visual variation to the map and help players identify where they are when they sort of leave the spawn area. On top of that, it's just a really fun area to explore because we have verticality, we have rocks to jump off, we have little hidden areas, we have big open spaces and nice tight sort of dark corridors and tunnels. So yeah, it's just a really fun area to explore, I think.
And you actually mentioned in there about lighting as well, so with light areas and darker areas, which I think is something really crucial to Reave, and I know it's something you've been working on for a long time, which is tweaking the lighting and everything like that. Do you want to give everyone a little bit of an update on where lighting is at and what your goals are for lighting in general?
Yeah, so lighting's something that we'll continue to iterate on all the way up until release, but right now the focus is kind of getting the balance of light and dark right. So we want areas to feel dark and gloomy, but then we also want areas to be jet black. So we're trying to create this very clear separation between areas that are just a bit dark and atmospheric and areas that require a torch to spot, loot and traps and enemies and all that kind of stuff. So there'll be a lot more of that coming soon.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I like that variation too of having, nicely bright, cool looking areas with glowing plants and stuff like this, but then we also have those darker areas you mentioned, but there are smaller areas too, and straight through this door are some more narrow caves and passageways. Why don't you tell us a little bit about those, Sean?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we tried to break up the larger areas with these like tunnel-like areas in the caves. Obviously, they're a nice change of pace, but they also impact the combat itself because it's a lot tighter and you can expect to see the likes of wretches and smaller creatures in here.
And other than these small little tight corridors, there are other caves buried deep beneath here where you can fight some stronger enemies. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit more about sort of the challenge and the kind of optional areas that they can choose to explore?
Yeah, so what we found is that many players generally start a raid with different goals. So some want to beeline directly to the boss area, others want to just come in and collect echoes, others again are just looking for some loot. So we try to provide as many paths as possible to, cater to the different playstyles and the goals. So an area like this, for example, is very close to the spawn point and it has some very difficult enemies in it, but it's entirely up to the players whether or not they want to engage in combat or whether they want to come back when they're leveled up or just move on to another area.
Yeah, I love that, and fighting the brute in here is really cool because it's a little bit more of an enclosed space, but you can still fight him in a kind of a cool area. And I especially love this area here from what we're calling the relic study, where you've got this relic site where it's all sort of fallen apart and you can just see this beautiful light coming in. I think it looks absolutely fantastic. Amazing. Thank you so much for showing us around, Sean. It's been a great little tour of some of the caves in Reave. Is there anything else coming with the environments in this next playtest that players can look forward to?
Yes. So we have 2 additional new environments on top of this one. We have a mess hall and we have the barracks, but they are only in a blockout stage right now. So they haven't received a full art pass. So what we would like is for players to give them a bash, give us some feedback so we can iterate on them and apply the feedback before I do a final art pass in the near future.
And thank you for joining us, Sean. Let's carry on with the rest of the devlog now and take a closer look at the mess hall and the barracks. As Sean mentioned, they're still in their blockout stage, but if you check this out, you can get an idea for where we're heading with the art. The mess hall is planned to look something like this when it's finished, with this awesome concept art by Sam, and this is one of the common rooms in the barracks, also planned to look something like this when it's done. Again, another fantastic paint-over concept by Sam. I hope this gives you all an idea of the direction we're heading in with the mess hall and the barracks when they do receive final art passes. Now let me show you how they look right now. This is the titular mess hall. It's this large central chamber of one of the spawn areas. You can see there are tables that were once used that have now been overturned, and you can fight wretches and Scarf here. There are also adjacent areas that hint at other things coming in the future, such as a kitchen, but one of my favorite aspects is just to the side of the mess hall, there are these grates in the floor, and if you look down, you can see another area below. Find the staircase down there, and you'll discover that this is a cellar. It's such a cool place, and there's even one of the spawn points down here too. The whole mess hall just has this atmosphere like it was once a place where people dined, rested, and lived their lives between whatever they were doing in the Bastion, before the Scarf came in and wrecked everything. Now the barracks is another spawn area in the Fallen Bastion, but it's much smaller and closer quarters than the mess hall. I particularly like the central common room. You can climb up and fight a wretch here, and then there's this impaler that you can dash jump over to, and then take him down on the other side. It's a really fun dynamic area and changes up the flow of combat. Both the mess hall and the barracks feel pretty distinct from each other, and feel pretty different to fight in and play through, just like the caves that we showed you earlier with Sean. That means the experience of spawning in a raid in Reave is now going to feel far more varied. There's still one other spawn area that hasn't been updated yet, which I am really excited to show in a future devlog. But that does mean that right now if you spawn somewhere that isn't a green room with an elevator, you're probably still in the one remaining older spawn area. But when you do spawn in one of the new areas, the mess hall for example, You're greeted with these windows looking down into the chamber below, and you'll immediately know what you're in for. We'll have a lot more to share on the Barracks and Mess Hall once they receive their art passes, but I wanted to show you them now, especially since you'll be able to play them in this month's playtest and give us direct feedback on gameplay in them before the art pass work is done later this year. And we're still not done yet. There's still even more to show you in this devlog. In the past few devlogs, I've showcased a few abilities already. The first was the Lacerating Strike on the Huntsman Axe, and then we introduced Dueling Stance and Damage buff on the Z-Force Shortsword, and then of course the Poison Strike ability on the Quillian Dagger along with its deadly backstabbing potential. But in this devlog, I've got two more to show you. The first is for the Vanguard, our arming sword. Its active ability is called Power Strike. When you pull the trigger, the entire blade glows red as it's infused with raw power. And of course, you can now see this ability represented directly in the UI when you're in a raid. Here's what it looks like when you're normally holding the Vanguard, and here's what it looks like when the ability is activated. And you may have guessed already, but the next weapon is the Raven Hammer, which has also received its own ability, the Crushing Blow. Its ability UI icon now looks like this, and then when you activate it, it shifts to this. And yes, that purple glow you see is new. Crushing Blow delivers a devastating amount of stagger damage to an enemy's poise meter. More on that very soon. When you land a strike with it, the green bar below an enemy's health surges significantly. Fill that bar completely, and the enemy will stagger, dropping to one knee, completely vulnerable, creating the perfect opening for you or your team to strike. And yes, you heard me right. Enemies can now be staggered. This new Poise and Stagger system changes combat in a big way, and the Crushing Blow active ability isn't the only way to deal stagger damage, but it's probably the most powerful one. Every weapon now has a stagger value, which you can inspect in the UI. Naturally, hammers have the highest stagger potential, while swords and daggers are lower. This means hammer users excel at creating big openings for their team, while faster weapons can capitalize on those moments with heavy follow-up damage. Currently, every enemy in the game, except for the Impaler and the Spiders, is staggerable. We haven't added it to those enemies because of how low their health is, but if players feel like they should be included, that's feedback we'll be looking for during the next playtest. The new Poison Stagger system is a massive upgrade to combat. For one, it adds new layers of strategy. If you're facing a tough enemy with a lot of HP, you can focus on staggering them to create an opening for heavy damage, or you can stagger them to buy yourself some time to recover stamina and heal up while they're down. Managing your stamina is still crucial, but now watching the poise meter below an enemy's health is just as important. Do you push for the stagger or try to finish them off with some risky hits? Those decisions change how every fight feels. I can't wait for everyone to get their hands on this in the August playtest and let us know what you think. Now before we wrap up, there's one more thing, a big change that I think a lot of players will be happy about. Previously, extraction points were single use. You'd enter the spawn room, or another spawn room on the map, see one of the pedestals, socket your vessel, pay 50 echoes, and extract. But once you did, that pedestal was locked and no one else could use it, not even a teammate in the same party as you. This was fine for solo players, but for teams of 2 or 3, it meant splitting up and finding separate extraction points. But not anymore. Now extraction points are fully multi-use. You and your whole team can use the same pedestal back to back as many times as you need. One player extracts, and then the next, and then the next. No limit. This has been one of the most requested quality of life changes, and we're excited to finally get it in your hands in the next playtest. And with the new green lighting in the spawn rooms, extraction points are a lot easier to spot too. Whether it's the green glow from under a doorway, or the green light seeping through a cracked wall, it should be much easier to find extraction points now, and you'll know it'll be usable every single time. This is just one of many quality of life changes coming in the next playtest, and we'll be sharing more of those on Discord, including the full change list very soon. And with that massive devlog, everything you've seen will be available to playtest soon. And remember, you can just get access by heading over to discord.gg/Reave, complete the commands to get access, and experience the Dungeons of Reave like never before. And please remember to like this video and subscribe to this YouTube channel to keep up to date with all things Reave and all these devlogs and future trailers that'll be released on this channel. Thanks again for watching this huge devlog for Reave. See you all in the next one.